Hey guys, welcome to Horses of Courses. This is our first podcast for Heart of Phoenix Equine Rescue. I'm Tinia.
I'm Suzanna.
We are here in Louisville, and we are going to start off talking about how Heart of Phoenix came to be and ultimately where we are today. So it's kind of wild that we're doing this on January 13th because that is an anniversary where I had a specific family tragedy, and this is the 17th year of the anniversary of that tragedy. And had that not happened, Heart of Phoenix would not be here today. And that means that roughly 1,200 horses throughout Appalachia would not have been able to be saved. And I think the bulk of those horses would have been unlikely to ever have been rescued. So 2009, Heart of Phoenix was something that I was kind of just fighting against forming. 2010, even into 2011, I was doing a lot of stuff on my own and trying to work with other rescues that were in other states to see if there was a way I could just serve as a support to another established organization. Ultimately, that did not work out. I found that, I hate to say, but I felt like I could do it better.
Imagine that. You felt like you could do it better.
And to be fair, we do. But that took years and years and years and a lot of mistakes and doing a lot of things wrong. So we filed for 501c3 nonprofit status in the fall of 2011. 2012, I believe it was April, we received that designation. It was a lot tougher back then. They've streamlined the process. Back then, we had to find an attorney that was familiar with filing for nonprofit status. It took maybe 7 months. And that was after we were on the wait list for probably 6+ months to be eligible for this kind of foundation to decide that they would look over what we were doing and see if we were essentially worthy of their time.
It's not like that anymore.
And no, now you really are just like, here, I have Rescue of Hope in West Virginia filed.
I like the service animal things.
Right. You anybody with a piece of
send
paper.
Send off your money and your piece of paper and you can get a service animal vest.
Yeah. So it is important to me that people understand, we became a 501c3 when it was tough and it was something that, required you to be very serious and an investment of money and time.
And you had to walk uphill in the snow
both ways. I never had any shoes. I had to go up one way, down the other, and then for whatever reason, I'd turn around at the bottom and go back up and then down, never wearing shoes. So it started out with just me, and then there were a few other people that came aboard to help out. They essentially became what were the founding board members. And Suzanna, very quirky, did she ever roll into the picture. So we had gone to a place near Morgantown and accepted a group of Arabians. The husband was shooting and had shot some of the horses that the wife that he was separated from owned. The horses were in good condition, but the woman didn't feel comfortable just giving them away or selling them, and she was in fear the husband was going to shoot the other horses. So here my husband and I go up to past Morgantown, Brewston Mills, and when I think back about it, we were in a Toyota Tundra with no trailer brakes, and it was wild. There were some
sketchy things.
It was wild.
Did you have your shoes on?
Well, I probably didn't the drive up, and we get these 4 Arabian crosses, but by the grace of God, again going back to that, I felt like we could do it better, but we weren't yet doing it better. We loaded those horses, brought them back. And there was what I felt was a very nice Arabian mare named Lamar Nateza.
What a name.
And it was weird because she actually had been owned and shown a little bit local to us in the Charleston, West Virginia area and had been sold and went up to Brewston Mills. So when I got her papers, there was a little bit of her history where she had come from the area we were growing in and starting to do rescue work in.
When that person eventually sent Raven the newborn pictures of her.
Oh, I don't think I even knew that.
Yeah, see, I have some newborn pictures of her somewhere.
So we posted her, I think, on Pet Finder and on Facebook when we decided she was adoptable. And at the time, the Humane Society of the United States director, Summer Wyatt, was boarding at a barn in St. Albans that happened to be where Suzanna was boarding or taking. Your daughter was taking lessons, and you all were working with Susan.
Yeah.
So then you tell them how that went.
Well, we were looking for a pony for my youngest daughter, actually. So we went to look at Tezza. We ended up calling her Tezza because the rest of it was just too much. And there were peacocks screaming and hopping on and off the couch. And Tezza behaved herself really well. But for some reason, my youngest one just couldn't be comfortable riding her. She was afraid of her. So we left and we went on and we looked at the other pony. And unbeknownst to us, that pony was drugged and pregnant. And she was an angel for my youngest, and my youngest is like, yeah, this is the one I'm comfortable with.
I just want to mention, this is kind of a how not to get your little girl a pony story also.
So we took that pony home, and that was a whole nother sad story. But anyway, we took that pony home, and she's in a great place now. It all worked out fine. And Susan Sunday couldn't stop thinking about the little bay and how much she needed another horse for her lesson programs.
And she kind of looked a little like a Morgan, Tezza had a little bit of a Morgan-y look,
Maybe a little.
And Susan's a Morgan trainer, and
yeah,
I think that's why she liked her.
So Susan called and asked if she could adopt her, and that story was an adventure in herself. But ultimately, we got her back to Susan's barn, not realizing that because she'd been at that foster place so long, they didn't know that she was losing her vision. And so when we moved her to Susan's barn, where you have to ride up a big, long aisle out into the indoor arena, the mare just lost her ever-loving mind. She reared and carried on, whirled, and tried to dash back to the stall. None of the lesson kids could ride her but my kiddo. So...
Well, and so she had been there.
So then we thought Heart of Phoenix drugged horses.
Yeah.
Because at that time we didn't realize she was blind.
They didn't know anything about us, and this was maybe 2013, I think.
I can't, 13 or 14.
2013 or 14. So
then we thought we had two drug ponies.
Yeah, they're like, everything we did ended up with a wild animal, which I think goes to show, how many things, when there's not even ill intent, how many things can be at play before, and the one home doesn't know and the next home doesn't know. So while I think also one of the things is Tez was in an outdoor setting, and you put a horse in a horse that's losing vision or just has partial vision into an indoor setting, a lot more shadows, a lot more stuff I think they are aware of. So I think that factors too. While we wouldn't have seen it, she was outside.
So because my daughter could actually ride her still and get her out in that indoor arena and have a good time with her, and kind of really liked the sassy little wench. When we moved
Your older daughter.
My older daughter, yeah. When we moved to Kentucky, Susan was like, well, I can't do anything with her, and Raven loves her, you just want to take her with you. And I'm like, well, okay, sure. So I moved to a 56-acre farm in Kentucky. What's one more?
Except nobody told Heart of Phoenix Equine Rescue. So I check in, hey, how's Tez?
Okay, to be fair, I didn't know that anybody had to tell them.
She didn't know. She didn't understand. So I check in, hey, how's Tezza doing? And I'm checking in with the Humane Society of the United States director, Summer, who boarded there because that was just easy on Facebook. They were all together in the same barn. How's Tezza? Oh, I believe Susan gave her to her old client, Suzanna. It's a nice home. And I'm like...
And she's moved to Kentucky.
And she did what? So Summer goes, oh, I thought Susan would have told you. She did not. So I say, hey, what's her contact? And I have actually, if one phone wasn't recording the podcast and one phone was not live streaming, I would pull up and read the dialogue. So
But you did call at some point, because I very distinctly remember your mean voice.
I don't know. I think Suzanna over time has, like, this is a story that what do they call it? The Mandela effect. Like, it didn't happen, but we remember it happening. But there is this dialogue for sure in our message history going back 10 years, at least 10, where it says, you know, I'm Tinia, I'm the founder and director of Heart of Phoenix, and you have a horse that was given to you, and you aren't supposed to have her without having gone through an adoption process, and I need to know she's safe right now. And, you know, you can see in Susanna's response, she's like, ah!
I don't like anybody to be mad at me.
So she goes out, like, and she gets pictures and video, and, you know, obviously the mare's fine, and I get in touch with Susan Sunday, who ultimately, you know, in the next 6 months or so, does start to become very involved. And it's just a series of these weird, unfortunate misunderstandings that led to us having Suzanna and Susan, who, you know, has been very apologetic about not reading her agreement.
Well,
you know,
and Raven and Riley for a while, because they were big contributors too. So.
Well, and a lot of people that have come through Susan's barn that we've met, it's just that thing that happened. But to be fair, what Susan has said is she had gotten some horses from rescue situations where they'd never followed up. And that, I think, speaks a lot to what we do. We follow up. We always follow up. We want to know where the horse is, and we do track the horse, and the horse does have to come back to us. You know, and there's so many things about what set us apart. So Susan was a 30-plus year horsewoman, 40, gosh, I don't know, 50 years in the horse world by that point.
I don't even know.
Well, today is Susan, they're having her birthday, and here I am in Louisville, and I think it's her 78th birthday. So however, 10 years ago, I mean, she would have been in the horse world about 50 years, and she had gotten horses from, like, Saddlebred and Morgan rescue situations, but had never had any follow-up. So she really didn't read what she signed. She was like, yes, I'll take this horse, and went on down the road with it.
And it was looser back then, too.
And yes, our process, I mean, this was, at this time, it was me, one helper, and 2 board members, 3 board members, you know, so it has changed a lot. And again, talking about, sure that we could do it better, but we weren't quite doing it better. But we were...
It got better when I came on board.
It did. It got more I's dotted and T's crossed. So, today...
they want to know what happened to Teza. I kept her. She went totally blind, I kept her. She got cancer.
She stayed with Suzanna and Raven and had that farm in Kentucky till the day you all put her to sleep.
Yeah, because she had cancer.
She had cancer, and that was probably 6-7 years ago. Maybe more. Maybe 8 years ago. Know. It was a long time.
I feel like she was on the farm for like 3 years before we had to put her to sleep.
Yeah. So happy ending. You know, it was a happy ending.
That's not a happy ending.
Well, I mean, she got to stay where she was loved and with the right person, and so that part was happy. So kind of circling back to, for people that, you know, we're assuming obviously live streaming this to our current audience and people who are going to follow the podcast. You all know a lot of our history, but the hope is that we're going to reach new people with the podcast. So Heart of Phoenix is the first nonprofit horse rescue to exist successfully in the state of West Virginia's history. And we are one of the largest horse rescues in the world. It's incredible to think about, you know, all the challenges of Appalachia, the poverty, the opioid epidemic, and just even the geography of West Virginia is not super conducive to horses. To think that from 2009 to 2024, we could have made that journey blows my mind. It seems impossible. And if you are a follower, you would remember different times I've referred back to this blog where I wrote in 2011, it was in the fall. We'd just put down the horse that the rescue's named after, Phoenix. And I wrote, you know, who knows, if enough people become aware, we could really create change. To be on this side of that over 10 years later and know for certain we have, mind blown. So we have rescued about 1,200 horses. I would say more than half of those have been in the last, not 3.5, 4 years. You know, we grew so fast once we started to really grow. I remember the first time we had 10 horses in rescue, being horrified. Were you with us probably when we had 10? Had you, or you came a little after? You were in between 10 and 20.
I remember when you and I would go over the list and the list would fit on one page. Now it doesn't fit on a page.
I remember when we would share how many horses with the names that we'd rescued to date and being able to compile those, and I could have handwritten those on this page, you know.
Yeah.
The other night I was going back through some horses that we'd rescued, and you know, it starts to get fuzzy, the story, but whenever that happens to me, I go back and search everything about it so that I can remember. But I want to remember the horses and their stories, and I know that I don't remember them like I used to. There was this horse named Faith that we networked. It came to us in 2014. A little paint pony. You would have just, I don't know if you were on, I don't think you were quite involved yet. I think it was during the time you had stolen Teza. and I was messaging Amanda in the middle of the night. I'm talking 3 a.m. Remind me the details. She came to you, see that you held her a little bit, and you know, I think we just care that much. And it's not just me. I think every single person that has fostered a horse or had something to do with that horse, that we remember them matters. But how many times do you see followers ask us about horses? And
all the time.
All the time. Where is so-and-so from 2016?
Can we see a current picture of so-and-so?
And we're like, yes, and we can tell you what happened. We can tell you.
Like, we can get you one in like an hour, usually.
Yes. Or we can tell you, hey, that horse went to this home and it was, you know, something happened and he's passed away on this date. That's an exceptional thing to be able to do, even if you had a small number of horses. There are organizations or breeders or owners that the details get fuzzy, but because there's so many of us that care that much, it allows us to do that. And obviously now having not just Facebook as a database, but having people who work so hard to keep the data somewhere else, you know, shout out to Tinia and Suzanna and Amy who work to put that data somewhere so that, you know, as it grows, that we don't lose that ability. So that's kind of our history. Things that we do that are unique, I think, to Heart of Phoenix or make us more unique. And one of the reasons Suzanna took a bigger role was she originally fostered a horse or two.
Well, Sky was the first.
Sky. And you got some nurse mare foals that we were kind of networking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we slept out in the cold with them.
But was me knowing my strength is I'm a storyteller and I'm certainly very active. I'm going to go out and get the thing done. But I didn't have a lot of interest in talking to the average horse owner about average horse things. That is not me. I'm very much a talk on a soapbox person. Har, har, har. So, you know, while I have a lot of content that I've created for HOP, you know, the day-to-day things that people have come to expect from the page, you know, primarily come from Suzanna, but there was no way that we, you know, back then, I just thought she talked about liking to educate people, and it was more, I think, a growth thing where I was like, hey, you like to do this. You seem to like to teach people things. What about if I add you as an admin? And it was the first time that I let someone else post on the page, which was very small.
Well,
you know,
at first I was on there just to fix your typos and your doubled sentences. And your, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, so it's not that you didn't say the there, Tinia. It's tree or whatever. You know, I was like, hey, I put the content out and I'm not going to go back and edit myself. Can you do that? And if you want to throw in something that people would relate to, that I have no interest in writing.
I don't even remember what the first thing I wrote about was.
That would be interesting to go back and find it. I don't know how we'd ever do it, though.
I don't know how we'd do that. I don't know what...
You could probably type in, like, Suzanna in 2014, probably, and maybe find it that way.
Probably not, because I don't sign what I write, because that drives me crazy.
Yeah, so I don't even know.
Because remember, you used to put written by Suzanna Jones, I'd be like, take that off!
She would get so mad. She would get so mad. And I think I wanted other people to know that there were other people contributing. But so now I think people can tell, but they can't. Really.
Can't. It's more fun, actually.
Yeah,
they'll
be like,
"Great
job, Tinia."
I'm like,
I didn't write that. Or I'll get tagged in this thing, and then of course people steal everything we write anyway and claim it as their own. Yeah. That has always happened, but it's happened so much in the last year. Or 2023 was the year of plagiarism. Everybody plagiarized everything that we did. But going back to the setting us apart is the intent to connect the average horse owner who has no interest necessarily in adopting. Our primary goal isn't to adopt a horse out. I don't even know that it's to save horses. It's to prevent a horse from needing saving.
Right. When I do the education things, it's really my hope that that'll help a horse stay happily in the home that it's in. Yeah,
there's this, people who are very anti-horse rescue or animal rescue, and usually they have not good reasons for it. And I'm not going to say that the rescue community doesn't rate a lot of the criticism that they get. But the theory that we want your horses, no, we don't.
I don't want them.
I don't want them. I want you to take care of your horses and keep your horses and not need to have the burden of taking that horse on. But I'm glad that we can if we're needed. But
we want to empower people to keep their own horses.
Yes. I think our mission statement, when we were wallering that out in 2018 or 19, I think it was 18, could have been 19, it was, what is the end goal? And we were like, to not exist.
Really?
To not exist. Is that attainable? Nah. But I appreciate that we nagged at the same time. But it is absolutely the goal, that we are obsolete. So the thing to me that sets us apart.
My goal is to be rich.
Rich? Wouldn't that be handy?
We can be rich off a horse rescue.
Rich off horse. Yes, there's so much money to be made in horse rescue. No, we are going to talk about that later on.
Oh, we are?
Yeah. It'll circle in. That's going to come together. So I think being an educational platform that every horse person, whether you're a trainer, a breeder, a casual backyard horse owner, you're competitive,
a horse lover even.
Just
even a horse lover.
You can just love horses and know you're never going to have one. And our page,
I see
our
that
platform,
comment a lot. Really,
yes.
I don't actually own a horse,
and I'm never going to be able to.
But I love the way you all are teaching me about them.
Yes, and so that we are a resource we kind of integrated into the industry, and we are a resource no matter what about horses that draws you to them, whether you have them or don't. We are relevant to you, and that is a hard thing for rescue of any type of animal to say, that I'm relevant to you regardless. Which, I thought that it kind of came full circle when two years in a row, or 2020 and 2022, when the American Horse Council asked me to be a panelist for, as the president of Heart of Phoenix. That was profound. I don't know if they've ever done that. We couldn't think of an instance where a horse rescue professional was brought on board to the industry to speak to the horse market. I was super proud of that for Heart of Phoenix, because that meant we had done what we wanted. We are part of the horse world. So between that and really truly meaning that we stand behind our horses by freeze branding them, by tracking them, by knowing where they're by taking them back, we'll refund an adoption fee. We want that horse to come back so that we can oversee it. It's not because we know that no one else could do it okay. It's we are already committed to that horse, and we're going to see it through. So those two things, I think, set us apart. And I'm not saying there are no other organizations that do it, but it's not commonly done. So that, if you don't know about us, that's who we are. You can go to wvhorserescue.org, and our YouTube is WV Horse Rescue as well. Obviously, social medias are Heart of Phoenix. And just follow, and I think you'll find, if you aren't already a supporter, that what we do is relevant to you if you care about horses. That said, that's going to take us into a care topic, which we want to have part of the podcast. So a topic that, if you're a horse owner, is relevant to you in all likelihood. This is
today's topic's kind of controversial.
It is so well, and
sometimes it gets people fired up.
Honestly, like 3 of these topics are controversial.
Oh,
blankets, kill. Stay tuned for kill pin scams.
Teaghan's not very controversial.
She's not controversial. And then the Keyboard Warriors episode. So blankets. I'm going to let Suzanna run with that. I have opinions on it, but I think that's more your thing on blankets.
Blankets? I'm telling you, blankets will divide people. Like, people will get into fisticuffs over blankets.
They'll leave long-term relationships. They'll not come to family events.
Yeah. So let us start off by saying we believe in blankets. But we believe in blankets only when they're necessary, because if you don't blanket your horse and they are properly fed and they have had time to become acclimated to the climate in whatever state you live in, then most of the time they will grow themselves a double-coated coat that's capable of, what's it called, paleo-erection? That's kind of a weird word.
I'm not going to take part of that. That's on you there.
It's a fancy word for when I'm cold, my hair raises up and makes myself have insulation. I think it's called paleo.
That sounds better.
I've never heard anybody pronounce it, but I think maybe it's paleo erection.
Can't take her anywhere.
Anyway, so if you've bought a horse in Florida and you've taken it to Maine. And it's only been in Maine for 3 weeks, the darn thing's going to need a blanket because it just isn't going to have time to grow its coat so that it can do that fancy P word. So we believe in blankets. If you think your horse has a fantastic coat and it really looks like it does, but for some reason it's cold outside and they're shivering, put a dang blanket on your horse. And if it's one of those freezing rain, high wind thingies and you can't get them inside of a shelter, put a dang blanket on your horse, a waterproof blanket for Pete's sakes. So, but we have to remember that these are animals that are intended to live outside, and be judicious with our blanketing. If you start blanketing when it's 50 outside, your horse is not going to grow a coat, and you're going to have to blanket the whole entire winter season. So,
well, and a thing on blankets as a rescue. I have seen and handled and dealt with in person more horses than the average gal. And it is rare that I have seen a horse need blanketing. I know when they do. And so we don't routinely blanket at the rescue. If a horse is very thin, geriatric, or clearly shivering, even if it looks like all the things, we could check those boxes off and they shiver, then we're going to blanket. But it's going to be cold at the rescue tonight. We have 45 horses or so there. We did ask that they blanket Apple. She's a donkey.
Yeah. And
donkeys have less tolerance to wet.
Right.
So, and it's been raining, and then less tolerance when it's a desert animal. So we are blanketing Apple. We already know that that's something that when it gets very cold or very wet, we need to do. And we have 2 thin horses there. Neither are familiar with blankets, and so the stress of blanketing them, it's one of those things where they going to appear cold. They're not out in the elements. We would blanket, we give it a go. They've been comfortable. They actually both have really good coats. So for West Virginia, for the temperatures we're seeing right now, I'm not jumping to tell the caretakers, hey, blanket those. So it is a case by case, but I will read these comments and see people blanketing horses in situations. I've gone into barns indoors where it's 45 degrees and the horses aren't clipped and the horses are healthy and they're blanketed
and sweating
in West Virginia, and the horse is clearly distressed.
Yeah,
so
sweating.
Don't take the view that, well, there's no harm in putting the blanket on. Well, yeah, like it actually, there can be. So
they have to fit. That's one of the things.
I was going to say, like, blanket safety is important.
Yeah, they have to fit.
And is the blanket waterproof? I think you're better to speak to this.
Yeah.
What kind of blanket do you need?
Do you know how to put the buckles on properly? Because I've seen so many horses in a field with blankets, and the buckles are like there's a big loop that I could stick my head between the horse and the blanket.
So, and you don't blanket a lot of horses, so this may not, and I don't we don't do it a ton.
We blanketed
Crossing.
Basil, and he tore the hell out of my blankets.
No more blankets.
He
for
destroyed
Basil.
the blankets. He was shivering.
So,
I was trying to be nice.
So is this an opinion, or it's a fact that you cross them or you don't cross them?
Well, which set of buckles are you talking about?
Like, so I've seen people cross them from the back to the front.
What?
I've seen them also just cross over.
Okay, so on the belly
and
bands...
under the back legs.
On the belly bands, I was taught to cross them on the belly bands.
Yeah.
And on the leg bands, Stephanie Davis told me the other day that you go... this is something I didn't know because I don't blanket a whole lot.
This is why I asked, because I know Stephanie, that's a difference.
And I was asking her. So the buckle on the left side goes around the left leg and buckles back to the left side. And the buckle on the right side goes around the right leg and buckles back to the right side. But you cross it through. It's through the other one. You do make an X.
You do. Okay.
But they all stay on the same side.
Yes. So I've seen all variations of that. And, I actually haven't looked into it because when they're done there, Stephanie oversees how they blanket. So I was curious about that. I will say I've seen horses put in blankets turned out that are not waterproof.
That's
and
miserable.
That's a miserable and mean thing. Make sure, and they don't stay waterproof forever.
They don't, no.
So these are things that whether you can argue about whether to blanket or not, but also how to safely blanket is important. And are you putting the right blanket? We've had some people donate blankets to us that are for winters in Montana. We're not ever going to have a situation in West Virginia.
They're nice to take a nap on.
You can use them for human camping or something.
Nice to take a nap on.
But we're not going to need those blankets. I'll throw this out there. If you're a person who ever hears this and you need blankets, we usually have them. We get a ton donated to us. Don't use them often. So
I need a new blanket.
Yes, Basil made sure Suzanna needs a new one. So if you need a blanket, we are a place that you can reach out, whether you're a rescue or an individual, because you need them. I'm more apt to blanket hauling horses, especially in stock. We don't have open stock trailers, but I'm a person who will put a blanket on a horse, thinking about bringing it from a long distance in the winter and the wind, and so
don't just assume because you can saddle your horse you can blanket it too, because sometimes it's a whole different ball game. Yeah. Like this is something that you need to work with when you're not in, oh my gosh, I've got to get this done now.
Yeah, piggybacking on that, teaching your horse to make sure it can get in a trailer and that you have access to a trailer that we posted about recently. So that's what I have to say about blankets. I'm going to hop on into, before we go further into the controversial topic, the Cavallo boots.
Cavallo boots. Look
at
this.
These.
We got super sparkly.
I mean, this
is fancy.
Is a fancy boot.
This is a fancy. Tinia would wear this to the gala.
I would wear this boot were I a horse. This is the boot that I would want. I don't think we have any. Maybe Rooster's foot might be this big. I think this is a size 5.
That's a pretty big one.
So this is a 5.
You brought me a 5?
I did. I didn't know.
Okay, so I had Josh, who's our on-site trainer, pack me up some boots, and the only question is we didn't know whether mine needed narrows or regular size. So he packed me up a variety, and Miss Thing here took them out of the truck and has brought me a size 5 for a Moorab. Okay?
No, that wasn't for a Moorab. This is for Morgan's horse.
Well, who is also not going to wear a 5.
So, so that said,
they're nice boots, though.
It's a very nice boot. But I want to say a huge thank you to Cavallo.
Yes.
They have donated hundreds of boots to us.
Yes.
Hundreds. They just
all
donated
sizes.
All sizes, all styles.
Narrow, normal, apparently sparkly.
And they also will donate like gently used ones, but tons of new ones. I mean,
aren't they a Canadian company?
I believe we decided they are a Canadian company.
They're a Canadian company.
They have a North American division. This is called Bling is the Thing.
Oh.
Bling is the Thing. I have not used a ton of hoof boots. We do use them though, because we'll use them in instances where a horse pulls a shoe off, especially the thoroughbreds, or their foot just can't hold
some of the thoroughbreds might
a shoe. So, but Suzanna could probably tell you about functional use of a boot.
You have to make sure that a boot fits. It's really important that you make sure that a boot fits. Josh and I were just talking about how to make boots. Boots can rub holes in your horses if you don't do it right. So you have to make sure that the boot fits, and you have to make sure that the boot doesn't stay wet very long.
I was going to say, super dry. Suzanna and I have argued about this a little bit because we have 40 plus horses at the rescue. Boots are... We appreciate the donations of them because horses may be adopted and need the boots to go. People may reach out to us with a need and just, or we may have trainers that have a horse that they could use them. But as far as like keeping boots and using boots routinely at a large facility, I've had a lot of issues with well-meaning volunteers poorly fitting the boot, not making sure they're super dry, and I have gone in and found, rub spots and things, so I tend to not use them a lot at the main facility because of that. But if you're very diligent, I can see the use of them.
Well, and also the thing is if you get a horse that has crappy feet, but it's too tender-footed to function, then you've got to do something. And nailing a nail on a crappy foot just makes more cracks in a crappy foot. So,
well, and they're just horses that the foot wouldn't hold a shoe regardless, even if that's
right.
Was somehow. So I really appreciate Cavallo. I do think I've seen all kinds of different brands of boot. I do. If we were going to use them, I have had no issues with pulling out one of those and feeling super happy once we got the right fit, using those on the horses.
Yeah.
So, wonderful company. You would think that in all the equine products out there, every company isn't able or interested in donating product. They honestly stand out to me of any company I can think of.
And they share our educational articles.
They share things from us, and just super, super, super supportive. So when you can support a company that supports horses in rescue, then you should. So if you currently use boots, or you're thinking about it, I would direct you to consider their line, and we appreciate them. Now to the topic of kill pins.
Dun dun dun. Gosh.
we're two. Let's see if there's a third one. Kill pins, broker lots, aka scams, liars.
Yes.
So
money grubbers.
That's where the money in rescue comes in. You're not actually rescuing.
That's not rescue.
And this has come up this week in multiple situations in my own life, and it is a spot that I have very, very strong feelings on.
Me too.
When Heart of Phoenix first started on social media, I think our page was like 2000. Like, we didn't make the Heart of Phoenix page till 2012. It was from my personal page prior. But I think it was 2009. So I started to see what was originally, it was Camelot. That was as best I know, the original kill pin scheme.
That's the one I remember.
Back then, and don't hold me to these numbers because our phones are all tied up and I can't pull up the data. But back then, a couple 100,000 horses were shipping to slaughter. A couple 100,000 a year. Now, even then, that was, we had, back then, there was an estimated 9 million horses in America. So a very, very small fraction of horses. And a lot of the horses that ship are horses that are sold directly from breeders as young horses that didn't make the cut. A lot of quarter horses. So some of those numbers, those horses were never available for sale to the public anyway, which is something I'm sure somebody will pop in. That's not true. Well, it is, though. So, we are seeing now, fast forward to 2024, I don't know what the data this year will be, but in 2022 and 3, the number of horses that were shipping to slaughter were like 18 and 20,000. That is...
It went way down.
Way down. That is like 0.25% of the estimated 7 1.2 million horses currently.
Well, the little auction near me, the kill buyer no longer frequents the little auction near me.
Well, and when people use the term kill buyer, now you may or may not know whether this guy's an actual licensed hauler. So there are traders that sell to licensed haulers that actually can.
That's what he did, yeah.
Okay, so there's lots of horse traders. There have never been a large number, in the last.
But he made a lot of money doing that.
Well, they do make money, but
he's not there anymore.
But it's not even. So, well, going back to understanding that 0.25% of the horses ship each year, 18 to 20,000. That is a small number, and so what you have to understand is it's a supply and demand business. They don't slaughter less horses or buy less horses for slaughter because you buy horses from a scammy kill pen. So the horses that are being advertised in they're horse trader lots. It's just horse trading lots. They're fulfilling their quota, the number of horses that ship are the number they wanted. You didn't keep them from shipping. The number isn't down because of kill pen broker lot scams. The number is down because the supply and demand business changes. They want less, so they're buying less. The demand for American horse meat has been going down, partially because globally they say that the interest in horse meat is down. There are more breeding situations just raising horses for meat outside of America. And American horses are not food animals, and they're not regulated like that, and we don't want them to be because of the medications that they need aren't allowed in food production animals. So just something like bute, for instance, you can't give a cow bute and sell it for slaughter. Horses are routinely given bute. It's a carcinogen, so you can't then give that to a horse and feel like it's safe for a human to consume. So since American horses all have gotten something likely in their life that could have made them dangerous for a human to eat, then that we aren't the place they want their horses to come from overseas if they're going to purchase horse meat. That said, so if you want to see the borders closed, because to me 18,000 horses shipping for slaughter is too many. It's not very many, but that's still too many. We don't need to slaughter our horses. So how do kill pen schemes and supporting them, how does that factor? Well, here's what's happened. Horse traders, they're adaptive and they're stealthy. And they are business people.
They are business people.
They're business people.
Like the real kill buyers have contracts with the slaughterhouses, and they sign the contract that says on such and such a date I will deliver you 45 horses.
And they're going to deliver.
And they would do it, or they're in breach of contract.
Yes, they're going to deliver the number of horses they're obligated to deliver. Not one. We have never shipped one less horse because of rescuing them from kill pens. You may have moved a horse out as a placeholder, but a lot of the time those horses are never shipping anyway. They're just owned by horse traders, and they've concocted a grand, wild, scammy scheme to sell you something. So the first issue is...
You know what they're selling is the story.
They're selling you a story.
They're selling the story.
And you're paying big money sometimes.
For the story.
And the price these horses are selling for from the kill pens, it's far more than the meat price. The horse was never shipping for that price. The horse isn't worth that per pound. And so you say, well, it's your money, do whatever you want with it. Except no, that's not the case. Because by supporting, when you send us, hey, please bail this horse from this kill lot. Number one, it's not a kill lot. The horse isn't shipping to slaughter. That's a made-up story to get your money. But why does that matter so much? You and those who support these scams are the reason the border is still open. If they close the border, do you know how hard these traders fight to keep the borders open? Not because it's making them money. There's not that much money to be made in shipping the horse to slaughter. Not much.
It's because it lends truth to their story.
It lends truth to their story. You close those borders, immediately their story and their business model topples. They can't lie to you. They're making millions of dollars on a lie, but by doing that, because frankly, if it was just making them money in home and horses, who cares? Whatever. That's the reason, in your support of those and you asking rescues to do it, or rescues that take part, you are the reason horse slaughter continues. It would be, had that scam business model never grown, had it never caught on, horse slaughter would be, we wouldn't be shipping horses over the border. That would have ended 5-10 years ago. Because there's no reason, there's not enough horses going to make it something that has to continue, and there's enough effort working to close the borders that they would have closed, except why? There's so much money made in the story. And then here's the second part. What's always been the greatest danger to horses hasn't been horse slaughter. It's been gross horse neglect and abuse. These kill pen scams, they create more grotesque horse abuse than anything almost I've ever seen these days. Suzanna knows how many messages we get. I got this horse from a kill pen. Well, no, you didn't. You didn't. For one, I want you to know you didn't get the horse from a kill pen. When a horse is actually shipping to slaughter, that broker is going to ship it. You got the horse from a horse trader, so get the language right. I don't care what they call themselves. You got your horse from a horse trader. Okay, people have been doing that for years. But the horse was misrepresented A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And yes, there's always, I've done a ton of articles, Suzanna has too, about reasons that somebody could accurately represent a horse and things change. But legitimately, the horses that are in these trading pens tend to have a serious behavioral or health issue. They just do.
Or they haven't been touched at all.
Or they're feral, which is one thing, and then in and of itself, that's a huge issue. It's a solvable issue. But I grew up going to horse auctions with my pawpaw, low-end horse auctions, my whole life. I know the kind of horse that would be purchased by an actual licensed hauler, the auction that ran close to my house in Catlettsburg. The guy who owned that, his family, they actually were, for a time, licensed. When he bid on horses or he bought horses and put them in a pen, no amount of money could get those horses out of the pen, even if it was double what he paid, because he had a quota and those horses had to go on that trailer that night and go. So you couldn't get them out unless he just bought some extras, just in case.
Sometimes.
And he did every now and again.
Sometimes.
But unless that happened, you couldn't get the horse. If he was at the number he needed, out the door into the horse trailer they went. And I've watched many be loaded into that knowing there was not anything I could do. So I've seen it from all sides.
Well, not only that, but people want to expound upon the horrors of the slaughter truck. And yeah, the journey in the slaughter truck is terrible, but, the poor pretend kill pen horses. Think about Genevieve.
Think about the quarantine setups and how they suffer.
Well, but Genevieve got thrown on the trailer with 9 other horses in her foal.
And a body score of 1.5
outside in Texas. Went down in the trailer and got stomped on and rode all the way from Texas to Ohio. Starved with a baby.
Under the guise that she had been saved.
She'd been saved.
And you can't, and what she went through was worse than anything that would have happened had she shipped. However, she was emaciated with a foal on her side. She was never shipping. She was not shipping. That was a lie. But because of that lie, the suffering she went through.
Well, her face was swollen up to 3 or 4 times its normal size.
Nobody was slaughtering her over the border. Nobody was shipping her. She wasn't worth shipping weight-wise over the border. And for those who maybe didn't follow that story, we don't take part in those types of things. But what happens is a horse will be out of that situation and now with a private home or someplace that then reaches out to us saying, I have this horse I can't take care of. Its behavioral needs or its physical needs are so huge, we can't do what it needs.
I can't afford the vet bill.
Yeah, I can't afford it. Can you take the horse? And what we'll find out is the horse came from one of these broker scams. And yes, then at that the horse is now out of that cycle. It's now a neglected horse in a private home or a small rescue, And yes, we have stepped in and helped those horses, and that's how I know all the awful things. And you'll look back at the auction video of the horse where it didn't look great, but you see what happens to it by the time it's ran through this kill lot scam and some quarantine scam and some transporter scam. There's so much money. And then the horse just suffers and suffers. Sometimes it's 3 months, 4 months go by, and the horse has suffered unspeakably, only to end up in a situation where it's beyond hope and should have been euthanized months ago.
And the lady who bailed her thought she was doing a good thing. I mean, she set up quarantine for her. I don't even think we ever really tracked down how she got thrown on that trailer from her quarantine place.
No, because the people who are running these places are in it for the dollar. And, you know, everybody has to make a living, but you don't have to make a living lying to people. And you don't have to make a living on a scam. It doesn't have to be a scam. So when you see these posts, what you'll hear some people say, and I've had followers and supporters walk away from Heart of Phoenix, not many, but I've had a few that, well, it mattered to that horse. Is that what you're looking at? Well, for one, what that horse went through, I don't, you know, like by supporting the very thing that put the horse through the ringer, I don't know that benefited the horse, but let's pretend it did. To what end? Is the only thing you care about that one horse, or do you care about the tens of thousands going through this scam? You know, it reminds me of a graphic. I don't know what organization made it in the horse world, but it was a great graphic talking about how to end puppy mills. Keep buying from puppy mills.
Yeah.
Eye roll. You know, how to end horse slaughter. Don't keep funneling your money into the very scam that keeps the borders open. You know, you can't end puppy mills by buying from them. You can't keep purchasing in them and throwing your money into them and thinking that was the way that I'm going to solve it. No more than you can these kill pens. You hurt horses. When you give money to a rescue fundraising for kill pen broker lot horses, you hurt horses. You keep slaughter channels open. When you are a rescue that starts doing that because you know that you can get yourself funded that way, you hurt horses. And of course, obviously, the people that are running them are hurting horses, but that's neither here nor there to them.
Well, remember the one rescue that was raising all the money for them, pulling them, and then 2 weeks later would sneak them back to the...
Now, let me tell y'all.
That was bad.
There's not just one that does that.
I'm thinking of one in particular.
Yes, there are many rescues that do this broker stuff because it's shady stuff. So if you're doing things with a shady concept, then you have to wonder, like, why are you doing that? And I understand there's a lot of funding that can come through it, but how you get your funding, whether it's ethical or right, matters. There's more than one rescue.
But they screwed up because they took the flashy pink one and snuck him back.
And people
then
could recognize
that one.
I have seen many an organization that appears to be good get horses from auctions or kill pens. And at the end of this, I want to tie in like auction pulling being different if it's done right. And then start cycling that horse that ended up having a lot of problems right back through a different auction, thinking that nobody would know. And people do eventually catch on to that. So just watch that. If you, at the end of this, you still feel like you can't help but throw your money at places doing kill pen stuff, follow up. Where are these horses going? Because what happens a lot of times, people are just donating money. Or they're not even donating. You're purchasing, and it's not a nonprofit as a rule. You're sending money to the horse trading trap, whatever it's called. You know, they have a bunch of them, different names. You send your money there. Who knows how many people have bailed that horse? It could have been bailed and bailed from nothing. I mean, paid for 10 times. Who knows how much money's been made on it? And then I've known teenagers. Remember we went to Mingo and I got the horse, the little filly Thea, had the big mass. Mm-hmm. She was a teenager, a poverty-stricken teenager, maybe 15 years old, living in a shanty on a hillside in Mingo County, who messaged and told one of these places, because see, once the horse is paid for many times over, it has to have somewhere to go. Anybody who sends them an address, they will put a horse on a trailer and send it. And animal control went in, and we got these two, and this horse, Thea, had a mass and through her into her brain, it seems like. Anyway, she was beyond being able to be helped, and she had suffered a lot in the time between being ran through that auction and getting to this kid who lived in a shanty, on public assistance with a family, just a horrible situation. And it was living in her backyard in a dog kennel. Yeah. So that's the kind of thing when you throw money at a horse, hoping that it goes somewhere safe from these scams. That's what it is. It's in somebody's dog kennel, some kid in Mingo County. You can send them an address and they'll send the horse to it. So, that said, so what's the difference in a kill pen and a kill pen scheme? And because horses in a real kill pen, they're going. They really are. Unless they've just bought excess horses, they're going. So in these kill pen scams, broker scams, I think broker scams, broker lot schemes really is, I don't like to use even the term kill pen. It's a broker lot.
But that's what everybody thinks they're doing, though.
Yes, but it's a broker lot scam. So what's the difference? Is there a way to get horses at an auction and do it well? Yes, we've done it on and off since the very beginning of Heart of Phoenix, going back to 2009. We've done some auction pulling. We got to the point that we were doing so much with animal control. Susanna's falling asleep over here.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
We got to the point we were doing so much with animal control that we didn't really have the time or space to do auction stuff, so we got away from it. I think the last one we did was
Da Vinci and
Ariel and Treya.
Yeah.
I think those were the last ones in 2018. That said, if you are going to auctions and you're not bidding against good homes, and you are bidding on horses that truly need you, and you're paying a fair market value of the horse that's neglected. I mean, right now, depending on the auction you're going to, we've been sending, one of our volunteers, Brittany, has been going and is tracking the conditions of horses and what are they going for. If you're spending $350 on a bronchi horse that's in kind of rough shape going through, to me, that's ethical. However, if you're spending $1,500 on a nice broke horse that has a family bidding on it, why are you doing that? So if you're just bidding back and forth with a kill buyer who, trader, whatever. I mean, there are kill buyers at auctions, and I'm not saying there isn't. I mean, you could be bidding against a legitimate kill buyer. He has a point where he's, if he knows who you are, they'll just keep running it up to get more money out of you too. So there's different things about it. You just have to be cautious about how you're doing it. There's nothing wrong with going to an auction to source horses in need. There are horses in need at auctions. Understand, though, I've heard the slogan, there are too many good horses in the kill pen. Nope, that's not accurate. Mm-hmm. There are horses that have a compelling reason that somebody put them in a bad situation, and it could be solvable. It's not that it's not solvable.
I mean, Da Vinci and Ariel were in the loose pen, is what they were in.
Yes.
That was called the loose pen, which is horses that can't be led or ridden through the auction. And Ariel's eyeballs were trashed, and she had DSLD, and Da Vinci was a feral little stallion pissant.
And we paid...
I think we paid $250 for Ariel.
No, it was $185 for Da Vinci.
Oh, that's right, it was.
And I think it was $115 or something for Ariel. He was the most expensive, but that's the kind of money. That was 2018, but it was $185, or it was $185 for Ariel and $225 for Da Vinci.
Something.
Maybe like that. But that kind of money, and Da Vinci was just unhandled, mostly unhandled.
With testicles.
And he had testicles, and and then Ariel had been used up and just needed euthanized.
Which is what we went there to do. We went there to pull one and euthanized one.
We wanted to get something to be able to, make sure that was the last bad day, and then something that we could run through the ATFO. So we've talked about, going into 2024, going back to doing some of that, because animal control seizure stuff is something we have stepped away from because of how, they've been poorly handled by the state that we operate in. So looking to that, there is a way to get horses from auction and do it in an ethical way. And that will not involve kill pen broker scams. And we have tons of things I've written on it. You can find them online. If you have questions, I'm always happy to answer. I know people will feel super targeted by this, but sometimes you do the wrong thing and somebody has to tell you it's wrong. And I care about horses, and I want the borders closed. And people will say, horse slaughter must exist. No, sweetie. No, sweetie. If you're only sending 18,000 horses over the border, that's a small absorbable number. We can handle that in the whole country. If we have 7.2 million horses approximately in the country, don't tell me that we can't handle 18,000 a year that are getting shipped. You know, when your horse has a condition and it can't proceed with normal quality of life, then you euthanize your horse, do the right thing, stop creating so many issues in the horses that behaviorally they end up dumped at auction. That'd go a long way.
Make your saddle fit.
Yeah, like make sure you know how to fit your saddle. Your favorite saddle may not be your horse's favorite. So
that's a title I wrote.
No, I wrote that. I made a graphic.
I think you made a graphic because I wrote the title.
No, I'm telling you.
No, I don't know about it.
I did. You you are plagiarizing.
I don't think so.
You're plagiarizing me. You wrote how to fit the saddle and how to know. That was your. But I
think that I wrote that my favorite saddle is not my horse's favorite.
I'm telling you, it's mine. It was mine. It was a good one too. I'm proud of it. No, so
you don't even know how to fit a saddle.
That is not my forte. I asked somebody else. So that said, we are going to move into talking to you about a current adoptable horse. And this horse is Teaghan. She actually just went with Maribeth Harrell.
Is that her last name still? That is her last name. That's her new last name.
No, Harrell's her original name. Pepler? Pepler?
Oh, I thought Pepper was her original name.
I don't think Pepper's it. She's going to... Sorry, Maribeth.
We don't know who she is.
I remember your maiden name, Maribeth. And it's Maribeth Harrell. She's in Indiana. She's done the ATFO since 2019. I think 2019. And she just took her to just kind of get her some exposure, see where she's at right now. She's a 2012 Fjord quarter horse cross.
Yeah.
And
hard as hell to fit a saddle too.
Yeah, no withers.
Well, it's just she's got big shoulders and no withers. It's just hard.
She's 15 hands, very, very kind, lovely, personable, quiet horse on the ground.
She loves people on the ground. Like she'll go stick her head in wheelchairs and like put her head on people's laps.
She's especially cognizant of little critters, little people, little beings. I think she seems drawn to small beings, cats, dogs. Just the reason that we still have this she'd be considered highly adoptable, except for there's always a caveat why we've had her. She has some kind of a bit of a malformed elbow, so you can kind of see it in her canter and maybe even the trot a little bit, but we don't really think she's uncomfortable. The vet feels like it's just formed differently, so circle work isn't something for her, not a lot of tight circles anyway. And she did founder, came to us in kind of an active laminitic episode, and it was months and months of management to get her back from like a 23-degree rotation in one foot to like now it's within the realm of normal. It's
2.
0 and one's 2. But, always would be at risk without things being managed.
Because she's part Fjord, and guess what they don't eat a lot of over there?
Food.
Grass.
So, well, and it's funny, once a horse, she's kind of been a metabolic horse. Once they have, like, managing their weight, they can tip over to so heavy, to so thin, so easy. She looked great, though. Maribeth picked her up day before yesterday. Yeah. So she looks good, and I do think that getting a horse just exposure and getting somebody on them riding, she's got some students that can ride her, get some good video, and hopefully she will find the right home. When you have an adoptable horse, the best thing I think that we can do, though, is get them to somebody who has like clients, like people coming in, taking lessons, people bringing their horses in for training, because it's just exposure. You don't know if it's the horse you need till you meet it. What better way than to see the horse in your trainer's barn in work? I think it's rare that a horse goes to a trainer's barn, and if it's really doesn't have a problem and it's not a really upper level horse, that the horse doesn't get adopted as a result. So if you're looking for a horse, I think that would be, an advanced beginner trail horse who has go if you want her to have it, and doesn't if you don't want her to have it. Been my finding. I would look at Teaghan, and the benefit, we don't get a lot of bigger horses, and she's probably 15 hands. She's built, she's
got a massive rear end.
She's built beastly, like you would expect a Fjord quarter horse to be, and being just 12 years old, she's got years and years ahead. She just has some management, and honestly, if you don't want management and you're not wanting a horse that needs some management, horses aren't for you, because at any point your horse could come up with something, and you don't want to have the mindset that, well, the first time it's not easy, I'm going to send it down the road. She has some beautiful pictures up that Kelsey, who volunteers at the rescue, have taken, and you can see our adoptable horses if you go to My Right Horse and look up Heart of Phoenix. I think we have 72 on there right now.
They're on Pet Finder too.
On Pet Finder too.
Yeah.
And we post them in an adoptable album on the Heart of Phoenix Facebook page. So that leads us to what we want to have as part of this podcast moving forward. The number of phone calls and messages and experiences we have with people. Let me tell you one thing about Facebook or social media.
Okay, wait a minute. First of all, we love most of our people.
Yeah, I mean, we do.
We love most of our people.
And even if you have you don't necessarily see it our way, that's fine. We're wrong sometimes, and that's we going back to the very beginning of this podcast, in the beginning of Heart of Phoenix, I did a lot of things wrong to figure out how to do them right. Our hope is we can tell you so you don't have to have that same journey.
We're not finished though. We still sometimes do things wrong.
We still do things wrong, and but sometimes the level of assurity people come to us on social media or phone calls with, and how angry they get when we disagree.
Oh my.
It gets wild. So honestly, it's hard to pick what should be the subject of this keyboard warrior moment. Mm-hmm. But we're going to go with Gambler, the hula hoop, the trainer, Gavin. I mean, how many millions of views? It had almost 2 million, maybe more.
Something like that.
It was millions.
It was millions.
Millions of views on this video, and Facebook started taking reels once they have been out there so long, they remove them. But here's poor Gavin doing a fine job.
Yeah.
Fine job with this hula hoop. He's broken in half.
Well, it broke, and he just used it as an opportune object.
Yeah. So it was just like, I guess, a desensitizing thing. It broke, and it's like, okay, we can use this as an extension of my arm. So he's like scratching Gambler, who is blind in one eye. He spent years. A story was he was in an auction pen, probably some broker scam. Somebody accepted him that didn't have the tools or resources or knowledge or ability to handle him. He was a former bucking stock gelding.
He's big.
He's a big draft cross, very reactive, will get blind in an eye, very thin, feet needed work, needed vetting. Here's Gavin scratching him all over. And the clip has Gavin scratching him like in the groin area.
Yeah.
The people, the comments. I didn't read them all because I get annoyed and I'm just like, I am not dealing with this. Suzanna went through them.
My favorite one was, I'd like to tie that trainer up and poke his testicles.
And
I'm not sure whether that was propositioning or
poor Gavin.
or he was being cruel. I'm not sure.
And so we're talking about his testicles, and we're like, he's a gelding. He doesn't have any testicles. I don't know if they just thought they were like boop, boop. Like, he doesn't have any. He's castrated. And then the woman, there is never a time you would need to touch a horse there. Honey, ma'am, excuse me, you must not have had anything done with your horse, because at any point you could be riding in a stick, pop a horse on a trail up under it.
Removed.
You have to handle it. You can have, like, we've had to have horses.
We've had wienerectomies.
Yeah, like we've had to have things and the only way you would know is you could see that there's some kind of cancerous lesion starting. You have to be able to safely handle it. What do you need? Also your farrier down there gets up under the horse, and the comments was if there was no reason that at any point a horse should be desensitized to having the back end of the horse touched.
It was
and
crazy.
I thought, you're setting horses up for such failure. And there were even some trainer comments, and I thought, well, let's add you to the list to never allow to train anything. Because a horse, you have to be able to safely handle the horse, all parts of the horse. And on a male horse, there are many reasons as to why, but also a mare. You have clean udders. You never know. I mean, if you're a rescue, you could have mares coming in that are unhandled, that are going to have a foal on them. I've been under many a mare, and I'm sure you have too, trying to get a baby to latch on and be able to get started so that you don't have to bucket raise the baby.
Pulling ticks off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ticks like wieners. I don't know why.
Gray horses, being able to look, see if there's melanomas back there, being able to check a temperature. You reckon if a horse is going to kick your brains out over a hula hoop, scratching the interior of its leg, what's it going to do when you try to stick a thermometer up its butt?
Laugh.
Buddy, I've been in situations where that has been so dangerous. And a lot of the answers, well, just have your vet do it. Your vet does not want to be the crash test dummy, and there ain't enough equine vets in America right now to risk killing one because you were too stupid to get your horse desensitized to having its body touched.
If you needed that done, your vet could drug him.
Yeah, drug him.
Yeah.
Well, and then you know what? Even though there are many, you can't avoid having to sedate horses, but think about what happened with us, with Gatsby, under sedation.
Well, but even if you do drug them, they can override
what happened? We had a horse that had Demosedan. Our vet was doing a stifle injection on a very kind, very easy to handle horse. I won't say her name. Doing a stifle injection with Demosedan and xylazine, sedated heavily. And she drop kicked him and could have killed him twice.
Yeah.
So sedation's not even the answer. Imagine and that horse is a horse that you could tend to mess with her back in. So the comments, it was just like the horse was being sexually assaulted.
That's what a lot of the comments were.
Yeah.
And I was like, you're crazy.
And honestly, I'll tell you, the thing is, that video made us like $800 or something.
Yeah.
Made us like $800 because of all the arguing. So argue on, Power Rangers. Argue on. You were making us money. And Gavin was tickled by it. The trainers, some trainers I think would have been like hurt by it, but
I'm never posting again because this is all.
Yeah, but Gavin's like, here, let me send you more videos.
Here's another one.
Yeah, so, that one was funny. I wish it was still up so that you all could hear this, and then.
Well, I have it. I could redo it.
Yeah, but I don't know if we'd ever see that same.
Oh, we might.
Let's just put it up again to see.
I'll put it up again.
We did post a few more, but none of them quite created that level of outrage.
Something else did, though. I can't remember what the other one was.
Sonny's halter, but maybe we'll save that to another episode. Let's not tell all of our stories, but maybe next time. So, if you have got a kick out of listening to us, I'm sure it'll just get better from here. Susanna's fallen asleep, so we're going to have to cut this short. But hopefully what we're going to do is every month drop an episode. I guess this one's probably ran about an hour and 15 minutes.
I don't know.
But drop an episode a month. Sometimes we'll have a guest. We're going to go to different locations. Susanna and I live 4 hours apart from each other. I'm in West Virginia. She's in Kentucky. So we're doing this in Louisville. Maybe next time we'll be in Lexington. Sometimes when we have events, we'll try to podcast from the event. So Ride for Rescue at Elkins Creek in Ohio would be.
I don't get to go to.
Well, you don't get to go to, so we may not do it, but we'll probably do some special events, even if just one of us or the other. So
comment if you want to. Tell us what you'd like us to chat about.
Yeah, so this was kind of like running through this is a trial run of what we think are things to hit on. If there's something that you think we could have left off, let us know. We'll probably ignore that. But if there's something we didn't include that you think would be...
I think they're all Googling paleo erection.
Oh, my God.
find that word and post it in the comments.
Do a post about that. But don't steal any of mine. If you can help it. If you can help it, please, Suzanna, don't steal my posts.
I roll.
But if there is something that you think we didn't hit on, or if you just have ideas that fall within this framework that you would like to see in the February episode, that would be great. Keep in mind, we are live streaming this. I don't know, we may live stream them each time, but this will be put out on Spotify, and we'll have a special section on the website, and we will probably put this on YouTube as well, so that you can listen to this as you would a traditional podcast.
While you're driving.
All right, y'all. That was Horses of Courses, episode 1, January 2024.
Woohoo!
Now let's go eat.
Yeah. What's wrong?
Oh, is this still filmed? Or you have it turned off? No? Get that in there.
What?
I know I look like a big heifer. Like a big brown turd.
It's so cold outside.
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
What time is it?
An hour and 15.